breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Good morning, my friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Chris Cichon. He does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. All of a sudden, the Orioles are playing some better baseball, so we're going to be talking about their outlook, what they've been doing so well over the last few weeks. We're going to be taking a look at the American League playoff picture with them as well. And then in the final segment, we're going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all. Here in segment number 1, we're going to get you guys a recap of everything that we saw in baseball on Tuesday as well. And if you ever do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So, as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever with Edge Boost. They make sure that 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Tuesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
We'll talk more about the Orioles in a few minutes, but they do get the job done against the Boston Red Sox 4-3, and this was really more of a Red Sox loss than anything else. 0 of 13 with men in scoring position. Had a man on third base on a fly ball in the 11th inning. Did not send him home. Not sure what happened there, but Walker Buehler does give up 2 runs only last 4 innings. Bullpen had to do some heavy lifting from there. They were solid. Justin Wilson gives up an out of the bullpen in a third of an inning. But from there, Greg Weiser, Steven Matz, 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Jordan Hicks, Brendan Bernardino, Aroldis Chapman alternate squirrel setting. Garrett Woodlock gives up an unearned run in the 11th inning, and that turns out to be the difference as for Baltimore, Tomoyuki Sugano, 1 unearned run given up in 5 innings. Keegan Aiken, 2 scoreless innings. Cade Stout, he did not get a single out. He put a trio of men on base, and then Rico Garcia strike us off the side, getting all 3 inherited base runners stranded there by Yaramil Hidalgo. He gives up 2 runs in his inning work, allowed a home run to Nathaniel Lowe, his 17th home run season, newly acquired from the Nationals. From there, you had Yennier Cano and Corbin Martin provide scoreless 10th and 11th innings. For the Atlanta Braves, they were down 6 runs in their game against the Chicago White Sox in the 7th inning, and somehow, someway, they get the job done. 11-10 the final. Shane Smith gives up 4 runs in 6 innings, including a pair of homers. For the Atlanta Braves, Jurickson Profar, his 10th home run season. Michael Harris, all of a sudden eating up his 16th home run season. From there, the bullpen was an absolute disaster. Elvis Peguero, well, he left the building, giving up 2 runs in a third of an inning. Tyler Gilbert, 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in a third of an inning. Tyler Alexander gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. You did have from there Steven Wilson, give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels, and Kyle Teal, 2nd home run in 2 games, 4th home run in the campaign. That comes off for Connor Siebold, who gives up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. And Bryce Elder continues to look elderly. 8 runs given up in 4 2/3 innings, but Dane Dunning, Dylan Lee, Raisel Iglesias, they all turn a scoreless inning from there. For the Brewers, they had 1 loss in the month of August entering into the day on Tuesday. They took 2 losses on Tuesday as they lose both games in their doubleheader. First game, they lose by a count of 6-4 as for the Chicago Cubs, they did a very nice job of getting to Chad Patrick, who gives up 5 runs, 3 of which were earned in his 5 innings, including a home run to Willie Castro, his 11th home run season. Then Owen Cassie was able to get his first home run season. That comes off of Shelby Miller. For Miller, he gives up that home run in his inning work. Tobias Myers from there, 2 scoreless innings, and Christian Yelich, a yelly bomb off of Matthew Boyd, 26th home run season. For Boyd, he gives up 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings, but from there, Brian Keller, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Caleb Thielbar, Drew Pomerantz, Daniel Palencia. They're all able to turn a scoreless inning. And then in game number 2, a bit more low scoring as the Cubs get the win by a count of 4-1 as Brandon Woodruff only lasts 4 1/3 innings, gives up 3 runs. Aaron Ashby in long relief gives up just 1 run in 3 2/3 innings, but not a lot doing at the plate for the Brewers as James Taillon, first start since late June on a big league mound. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Taylor Rogers, Ryan Brazier, Andrew Kittredge all turn a scoreless inning for the Dodgers. They turn a nice win over the Colorado Rockies, 4-1 the final is. The Rockies had went 5-1 in their previous 6 games, but Emmett Sheehan, 4 runs allowed in 6 innings, wasn't his sharpest start. He gives up a pair of bombs as Brenton Doyle, 12th home run of the season. And how about the son of Eric Karros and Kyle Karros, his first career home run? And for Austin Gomber, he got gumbered up. 7 runs allowed over the course of 3 innings, including a pair of bombs. Alex Call, 4th home run season. Shohei Ohtani, 44th home run season. And for the Dodgers, bullpen was very solid. Anthony Banda, Ben Casparis, Jack Dreyer, all lend a scoreless inning. And for the Rockies, not so much. Nick Mears, Duggar Darnell combined for 2 2/3 innings. They both give up a run apiece, and Anthony Molina gives up 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings. For the Royals, they have been one of the best under teams in all of baseball, and for that matter, the Texas Rangers have been as well, and shock, shock, surprise, surprise, they play yet another under 5-2. The Royals do find a way to persevere. For the Royals, 53 overs, 71 unders, and 2 pushes, and for Texas, Merrill Kelly gives up 2 runs in 6 innings, including a pair of home runs. Mike Yastrzemski, 13th home run season, and then you had Vinny Pasquantino get his 24th home run season. Cole Winn gives one up to Bobby Witt Jr., his 18th of the campaign for a win. Well, he did not win in this one. 2 runs allowed in 1 1/3 innings. Hobie Milner, a run given up without getting it out of the bullpen, allowed 3 hits. And Danny Kalum, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless for Texas. Pair of solo home runs off of Seth Lugo as you had Corey Seager get his 19th home run season. Jock Peterson is 5th as Lugo gives up those 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings. From there, Anel Zerpa, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and John Schreiber was able to turn a scoreless inning of his own. For the Athletics, they turn a 6-3 win over the Minnesota Twins. As for the A's, you had Shea Langoliers. Shea bangs his 27th home run season off of Joe Ryan, who he only lasts 4 innings in this one, gives up 5 runs, 2 of which were earned, as Cody Clemens was supposed to have a catch out there in the field and did not, but Pierce Ewell, pretty solid in long relief, 1 run allowed in 4 innings. Erasmo Ramirez, a scoreless inning, but for the Athletics, Jacob Lopez continues to be pretty solid. 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 6 innings. Did give up a pair of home runs. Ryan Jeffers, 9th home run season, and you had Brooks Lee get his 13th of the campaign, but Justin Sterner, 2 scoreless innings, and Hogan Harris, more like Hogan Hero. He was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And the hero for the Philadelphia Phillies, that would be JT Realmuto. 6-4, they're able to take down the Seattle Mariners. For Seattle, Bryce Miller, first start off the injured list, was not sharp. 4 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings as he gives up a home run to Kyle Schwarber, a Schwarbomb, 44th home run season. And the Bryson Stott, 8th home run season. JT Realmuto off of Matt Brash gets his 9th home run season as Brash gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Edward Bizardo, Gabe Spire from there, both lend a scoreless inning. And for the Seattle Mariners, they did a pretty solid job in terms of getting to Christopher Sanchez, who did have 12 punch-outs, but lost 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Orion Kirkering gives up 2 runs in a 3rd inning, but Matt Strom out of the bullpen scoreless, and David Robertson, Yohan Duran. They're both able to turn a scoreless inning, and for the Mets, they turned a lot of scoreless innings on the Washington Nationals. 8-1 the finals. David Peterson, great name, great result. 1 run allowed in 8 innings, 7 punch-outs. Ryan Stanek from there, a scoreless inning, and for the Mets, it was home run derby in this one. Juan Soto, 31st home run of the season. Jeff McNeil, 10th home run season. Mark Vientos, 9th home run season. Brett Beatty, his 14th home run of the season as Jake Irvin gives up a pair of bombs, 6 runs in total over the course of 6 innings. Connor Pilkington, Jackson Rutledge, both allowed a home run in their inning of work, and PJ Poulin was able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Miami Marlins, the Fish have went very, shall we say, sour recently. They have now lost 7 out of their last 8 games. They fall to the St. Louis Cardinals by a count of 7-4. As for the Cardinals, Michael McGreevy gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 6 innings, but bullpen from there was solid. Riley O'Brien, Jojo Romero, Matt Savanson all lend a scoreless inning. In for the Miami Marlins, Edward Cabrera just gives up a lot of contact in general. 4 1/3 innings, he allows 11 hits, 6 runs, 4 of which were earned. From there, Kay Gibson gives up an unearned run in 3 2/3 innings, and Tyler Zuber, he was able to go for a scoreless inning of his own. And then in terms of the Tigers and the Astros, not a lot of scoring here. 1-0, a walk-off walk gets the Tigers a win. As for Houston, Hunter Brown was very rock solid. 6 scoreless innings. Brian King, Bennett Sosa, Brian Abreu, they all end a scoreless inning, and Caleb Board got a pair of outs out of the bullpen, walks in the winning run, so that was less than tremendous. And for the Detroit Tigers, Tariq Skubal, 10 punch-outs, 7 scoreless innings. Kyle Finnegan, a scoreless inning, and then Will Vest, he was able to give you 2 scoreless innings to be able to get that one to the window. Do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, so a few games that are still in progress. This one was a final, and the Toronto Blue Jays absolutely did a magnificent job of taking it to the Pittsburgh Pirates just by a count of 7-3. As for the Pirates, Mitch Keller gave up 3 runs in the first inning, and it would not get a whole heck of a lot better from there. Max Scherzer was pretty solid for the Toronto Blue Jays, though, as he gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Louis Varland, a run given up in an inning. Tommy Nance gives up an earned run in his inning of work. Jeff Hoffman, scoreless inning, and for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Mr. Keller, 5 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings, including a bomb, as going deep off of him, George Springer, 20th home run of the season, and don't call his name, Alexander Kirk, off of Colin Holderman, 10th home run of the season. Holderman does not live up to his aim, giving up 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings. Yohan Ramirez, 3 scoreless innings, and Evan Sisk was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And then this game is starting to wrap up. The Yankees currently up 12-2 on the Tampa Bay Rays. For the Yankees, they were able to hop all aboard Shane Baz. The Baz gives up 5 home runs, 6 runs in total over the course of 3 innings. And then from there, Ian Seymour gives up 6 runs in 3 innings. He allowed 3 home runs. As I'm doing this, you've got 8 home runs for the Yankees. Giancarlo Stanton goes deep twice, 13th and 14th home runs of the campaign. Aaron Judge, jury, and executioner, 40th home run season. Cody Bellinger, 23rd, 24th home runs of the season. Jazz Chisholm, 22nd home run season. Jared Cabrera, 3rd home run season. And Ben Rice, his 19th home run season. For Carlos Rodon, as of right now, he's allowed 2 runs in 6 innings. His night was done after that. Bullpen holds it down. And for the Tampa Bay Rays right now, Garrett Clevenger in the game, trying to keep it at 12-2, so a little bit less than tremendous there. This was less than tremendous for the Guardians. They fall to the Arizona Diamondbacks, this by a count of 6-5, as Eduardo Rodriguez is able to fill 6 2/3 innings, does give up 4 runs, including a homer, as it was Mr. Jose Ramirez going deep for his 26th home run in the campaign, and then Tanner Bybee, 4 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. He gives up a home run of his own, as going deep for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Jake McCarthy, 3rd home run in the campaign. From there, for the Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen, you were able to have Juan Burgos give you an out of the bullpen scoreless. Andrew Hoffman does give up a run in 2/3 of an inning, but Kyle Bacchus out of the bullpen scoreless. Andrew Selfrank, a scoreless inning. And for the Guardians, he had Tim Aaron give up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. That costed the team the game. Nick Enright, Eric Zabrowski both give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and Jacob Dunas, he was able to lend a scoreless inning. And for the Reds, they were on to a win over the LA Angels. This by kind of 6-4, as for the Cincinnati Reds, Hunter Green was able to get a bunch of strikeouts in this game, 12 punch-outs in 6 1/3 innings, but also allowed 3 runs, including a homer. Joe Adell sets fire to the rain, 27th home run season. Then off of Luis May, he's able to get his 28th home run season. For May, gives up a home run in his inning work. Graham Ashcraft, Bearvats out the bullpen scoreless, and Tony Santillan, a scoreless inning for the Cincinnati Reds. Neovali Marte goes deep off of the Professor, Kyle Hendricks, for his 10th home run season, and the Professor got schooled, giving up 4 runs in 6 innings. From there, for the Reds, they are unable to get to Andrew Chafin, Ryan Zeffrion, who both give you a scoreless inning, but Kenley Jansen gives up 2 runs in an inning of work. He takes a loss, no shock there. And then this game just wrapping up as I'm doing this podcast, as the Giants do fall to the San Diego Padres, this by a count of 5-1, as Kai Wei Tang, he was unable to last very long in this start. 3 runs, 2 of which were given up in 3 1/3 innings. Spencer Bivens, 4 outs out of the bullpen, gives up a run. You had in long relief 1 run allowed in 3 innings by Carson Seymour, and Matt Gage out of the bullpen squirrels. Jung-Ho Lee, a home run in the first inning off of Nick Pavetta's 7th home run season, leadoff home run, and that'd be the lone run that the Giants would get, as Pavetta, 10 punch-outs, allows that home run in 6 innings of work. Adrian Morejon, Jason Adam, and Robert Suarez are able to turn a scoreless inning. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in baseball right now, it has been an underwhelming season thus far. If you take a look at the last 7 days, we've had 43 overs, 41 unders. So starting to see a little bit more overaction, 51.2% to the over. Meanwhile, favorites, they've had a rough go of it. 46 and 44 on the money line over the last 7 days, just barely over 50%. Overall for the campaign, favorites are hitting at about 56.8%, 1,058 and 806 on the money line. Meanwhile, the under rate, that's sitting at 51.7%, 931 unders to 870 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, but if we do take a look at things out there in the lovely city of Baltimore and the American League playoff race with our good friend Chris Cichon, who does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. That's up next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VC Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Chris Cichon aboard. He does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he has been hard at work taking a look at what we're going to be getting for not just 2024, or 2025, but also beyond with the Baltimore Orioles. He's also getting his hands full with regards to the fact that the football season is coming up. So that means that the Baltimore Ravens, they are going to be in action sooner rather than later. He does a great job being a utility man over there at WBAL in Baltimore. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter /X at The Big Chi Show. That is CHEE on Chi before show. And it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Greg, thank you so much for having me and for the kind words. And yes, this past weekend when the Ravens were playing the Dallas Cowboys in preseason action, and I went out with some of the guys, I was very much paying attention. I shouldn't actually say very much. I was somewhat paying attention to the preseason game, but I was all in watching the Orioles game as it was Dylan Beaver's day. And despite that this team not going to the postseason, there is a little bit of cause for excitement after taking 2 of 3 from Houston over the weekend and seeing some of these young guys emerge, especially Brandon Young, going nearly perfect 4 outs away from that. So, yeah, that was certainly, if you're an Orioles fan, that's nice to see. And this is a team that's done a lot better since, Trevor Rogers has come out and pitched lights out. So, yeah, even though they're not going to the playoffs, I think people have felt more optimistic around here as of late.
Yep, and that is interesting to take a look at. I'm so glad that you bring it up because this time of year, everyone's locking in on the postseason. Everyone's talking about, can this team be able to hang on and insert your favorite race here? But there's still a lot of money to be made on some of these teams that they are trying to be able to rise up. They're trying to be able to play spoiler. And how have you been looking at this Orioles team over the last few weeks? Because you mentioned it in that series against the Astros. They were absolutely fantastic. And if all you did was bet on them in that series against the Astros, you made yourself a ton of money, especially with that Brandon Young start that you just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as betting the Orioles are concerned, I stayed away from the Sunday game when they played Houston. Just really wasn't sure what they were going to be getting in that series finale there, coming off a 5-4 loss the Saturday night. But the Saturday night game where they lost that 5-4 game where Jason Alexander pitched for Houston, you could get plus 1.5. You got to pay for it a little bit, but I got it at minus 178. And guess what? It cashed and the Orioles lost, but still getting a 1.5 was able to get me to the window there. And it's a strategy I've been employing with the Orioles because their bullpen has not been solid this year, to say the least, outside of Felix Bautista, who has been very limited in action and now is hurt. You're talking about a Yennier Cano at the back end of that bullpen. When I'm watching past Saturday night, I go, I don't know if I'm feeling all that confident with this guy coming to the mound. And certainly they've kind of just patched some guys together in that pen for the rest of the season. They're going to have a different look bullpen, I'd imagine, next year outside of Keegan Aiken. I think that, he might be part of the plans as far as a long guy is concerned. Yeah, with this Orioles team, they should have a nice rotation going into next year, I would think. And it's a team that I certainly would look at too in first 5 situations, because bringing up that bullpen and how that you never really know exactly who's going to be effective on any given night. If you look at sort of the first 5 of it, whether it's like a Dean Kramer who's been pitching really well as of late, or as I mentioned, Trevor Rogers. Albert Suarez is on a rehab assignment, so he should be coming back into the mix here somewhat in the next week or so, I'm thinking. And then Brandon Young. This was not a guy I was very high on whatsoever, and he has seemingly proved me wrong in that performance against the Houston Astros. Again, the rookie getting his first career win in that effort. So, you look at this Orioles team, and as long as Cade Povich isn't on the mound, he's a guy that I do not think should be part of this Orioles rotation next year. I think any Orioles fan would say that. But the rest of the starters have been pretty good, and I'd probably have to see more with Brandon Young before I would start betting him confidently. But the rest of the guys here, and we'll see kind of when Kyle Bradish comes about here soon. I think he'll be pitching before the end of this year. Same could potentially be said about Tyler Wells. So we'll see how those two guys figure into the plans here. And I would certainly like to see a little bit out of them. But those are two guys who do have nice raw stuff that if they do come about, I'd be excited to say the least. Like, I'll just say that at least in terms of what the potential rotation could look like in 2026.
Yep, and the potential for the Orioles to really factor in this playoff race is certainly there, as well as Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And the reason why they might be able to factor into the postseason is that towards the middle of September, they're going to be playing against the Blue Jays in a big series. They're going to be playing against the Dodgers and the Padres in series to start off September as well. They've currently got a series against the Boston Red Sox that is going to be going down as well. So they're playing against a lot of playoff teams. And just when you take a look at the American League playoff picture, how do you look at it? Because it feels like it's wide open, and a team like the Baltimore Orioles, I think, can wreak havoc in there because none of these teams feel like they're head and shoulders above everyone else. And in the American League, I can't recall a league ever being more wide open than it is this year.
Without a doubt. And my former colleague over at SiriusXM told me this, that the Orioles basically had this first 6 weeks cost them the entire year. Since the Trevor Rogers game, May 24th, they were coming at least into Monday 41-33 since that Trevor Rogers game, a .554 winning percentage. Only 4 teams more wins than the Orioles over that span. So this is a team that can certainly, to your point, potentially wreak havoc. I think about a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers, though, and I'm watching them this past Sunday take on a tough San Diego Padres team. And what the Dodgers certainly possess that a team like the Orioles, I think, will certainly struggle with is that back end of the bullpen. I mean, Blake Treinen had this sweeper curve. This is a guy who's pushing closer to 40 years old, I think, in his career, and he's still pumping heat, 96 with great movement. You know, they're able to bring in an Alexis Diaz. After that, Vesia. I mean, these guys are strong in that pen. And plus, if you're getting Tyler Glasnow to pitch well for you in the playoffs, I think it's funny. I'm sitting there watching the game. My mother-in-law, and she goes, and the American League, totally agree, wide open. But she's like, the National League's kind of wide open too. And I'm thinking to myself, I wouldn't bet against the Dodgers. They are the defending champions. They've got Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez. I go down the list. You know, Rojas is delivering for this team pretty consistently. Alex Call, I'm watching, play decent in the field. So, yeah, they're deep. They're a team that's able to withstand if you got to go into the long game as well. They're, some of their starters might not give you the longest length, and didn't like what you saw out of Sasaki recently, Roki Sasaki getting that comeback there. But, we're talking about the Orioles. I certainly think that they're going to be taking on some teams like the Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto, I think, can be susceptible. We know that they've played good baseball throughout the course of the season, but they can be had, I think, too. I would be surprised to see Anthony Santander playing against his former team. I know that he at least has been progressing somewhat, but yeah, this would be an Orioles team, at least with now their hitting, and even a guy like Dylan Carlson delivering over this past weekend. And I didn't have a whole lot of confidence in what he was able to bring to the table, but he's got some power now. If you look at a guy like Cedric Mullins that they traded away, I mean, if you ask an Oriole fan now, you see him hitting at the bottom of the lineup of that Mets team. I think he got hot at the very right time, and the Orioles were able to get some return on that. I don't think they would regret that one, even though it was very difficult to see Cedric Mullins leave and all the web gems he's had here over the years. So, yeah, it's a team that's still playing good baseball, even though they've shipped off some guys, because now, as I mentioned, Dylan Beavers, the Cal product, called up over this past weekend. They had the other young kid pronouncing his name incorrectly, so I won't even attempt to do it on this podcast. But, he was called up on Sunday. So, yeah, their young studs are here apparently to stay. Basalo, that's how you say it. It's actually not that difficult. So, yeah, it was certainly an Orioles team over the weekend that did a great job of hitting the baseball and shutting down a Houston Astros team that they certainly are powerful. When you look at Jose Altuve and how he's able to do a good job, at least over the course of the last few weeks, really getting back onto it. Correa back in that lineup too. But Dean Kramer shut that team down on a Sunday, and he's a guy I think that has really worked his way into the conversation as far as a contributor to this team in the road. I wouldn't have said that at the beginning of the season, but I think he fits into this team next year, especially with Grayson Rodriguez and the uncertainty with all the injuries he's had.
Yeah, certainly those Grayson Rodriguez injuries have been hurting him, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Orioles are going to be able to do for next season, because do think that there's a lot of upside there, and you mentioned it with the team ever since that Trevor Rogers start. They have been very rock solid since then, as we do have Chris Cichon, who does great work over at WBAL Baltimore, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And when it comes to right now, this could be National League or American League, and we've been mentioning it. It's a wide open season in baseball, but is there a team or two that you just feel really bullish about that you think can be that team that busts through, makes a big postseason run in a year where there's just not a lot of separation between these teams? Even a team like the Milwaukee Brewers, who obviously I very much love, they're a team I think is quite flawed as well.
Team that I'm bullish on. Yeah, I would certainly say I still like the Tigers because I still think this is a team, even though Riley Green strikes out a ton, they have what I would believe would be the power capabilities of being able to slug their way to victory with Spencer Torkelson in the heart of that lineup. And guys like Javi Baez, if he's able to deliver in the big spots there, and if Green, he does have the power numbers as well, too. And you have the top of that rotation with Tariq Skubal, who, even though he didn't even get off to the best of starts in one of his last ones, he was somebody certainly who was able to keep his team in the game, and that's super important. And the thing I like about Detroit, the back end of that bullpen, I know they had a tough loss on the series finale in Minnesota, huge series that they've got going on right now with Houston. Will Vest, Finnegan, these are two guys at the very end of that pen that certainly can shut the door down. Vest has a sub-3 ERA, and acquiring Finnegan, who was the pretty much lone reliever in the Nats bullpen who was effective, I think is going to allow this team to certainly go far into the postseason. And if I'm looking at a dark horse in the National League that I'm taking a look at and I'm liking here, if I go over to the West Coast, I mentioned San Diego is certainly no dark horse there, but I think, too, they can certainly make a run. And, maybe I have watched Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano, the acquisitions that they got from the Orioles at the trade deadline quite a bit. I mean, those are two solid hitters to acquire. Laureano's been solid for years. He get the 80-game PED suspension and has dealt with injuries. O'Hearn was a late bloomer, but, this guy has absolutely been delivering, gets on base, and he even said it recently that, people thought it was taking a shot at Michael Elias and the Orioles, but he's like, I've never been part of such a potent lineup. I don't think he was taking any shot at the Orioles. I think he was singing praises to a team that's got guys like Tatis Jr. and Machado, and even Jake Cronenworth, who, can be hit or miss at times, but still a guy I would like in my lineup there. So, yeah, Luis Arias, who is a singles machine still to this case. So, yeah, I still like the Padres to potentially be in the mix when we're talking about. Just watched L.A. against San Diego this past weekend, and those are certainly two teams that I think will be in the mix. And then, I'll throw one more in there, too. Got to like the Seattle Mariners because they are a team that is able to produce. Eugenio Suarez, Gino back in that lineup. J.P. Crawford's a guy even at the bottom of that lineup. If I'm thinking about the shortstop spot, like you could do a lot worse than a guy like that. Cal Raleigh and his ability to go deep. Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena. The Mariners and how hot they've been. I know that they got off to a tough start Sunday Night Baseball. George Kirby started against the Mets, but they're still a team that I think I would trust. And Andres Munoz back into that bullpen has been a really solid pitcher for them, too. So, yeah, Mariners are a team that I think that I can make some noise in a wide open AL West now with Josh Hader. How about that? It was 3 weeks away, we thought, and then it was, no, actually, he's going to need 3 weeks to rev up. So he's not coming back this season. So that could certainly hurt a Houston team that's should be in line to make the playoffs, but could sputter down the stretch if they do suffer some losses here. And, yeah, I would say those would be the three teams that I'm taking a look at as far as potential dark horses. I like the Chicago Cubs, too. I think that they've got a lot of abilities as far as their rotation. A guy like Matthew Boyd coming in this year and dominating almost every start, and how they're able to run with guys like Nico Horner, and they've got power there, too, and veteran presences. So those are probably the four if I'm looking in the market as far as World Series title champion is concerned. The teams I like. I didn't mention the Yankees there because I just think there's a little bit too much uncertainty with the rotation going into the postseason at this point.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I do have some uncertainty with the New York Yankees. We obviously know that they can get there because they were able to make the World Series last year, but I'm right there with you, Chris. And Chris, I know you're doing an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball. You're doing a little bit of everything over there at WBAL in Baltimore. You're delivering the news, you're delivering the sports, you're just delivering goods in general. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Greg, thank you again for having me on the show. You can find me at the Big Cheese Show, and I will be here for the next couple of weeks covering the Orioles and then going down to Disney World for a week during hurricane season, but the prices are the cheapest. But the baseball never stops, man. I got added to a text chain, toddler dads. They were talking about going out for trivia, and I said, I watch baseball every night, man. That's what I'm about. So that's what I'm going to keep bringing is the baseball analysis and the news of Baltimore, and I appreciate you having me.
And I appreciate you, Chris. You do such an excellent job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. And every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So a big thanks to Chris for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. Always great to be joined by Chris Cichon. He does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. Take a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. He does a little bit of everything out there. Reports the news, takes a look at the Baltimore Orioles, does a great job looking at the Ravens, and so much more. And every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks, Chris, for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we're going to go in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we're going with the National League games first, then the American League games, any Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, but if we do get things started with 901, 902 on the card, the St. Louis Cardinals are on the road against the Miami Marlins. Sandy Alcantara goes for the fish, and Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for St. Louis. St. Louis, a plus 110 to a plus 113 underdog, and between minus 125 to a minus 132. That number on Miami totals 8, overs minus 115 to minus 120, unders between even minus 105. And for Alcantara and the Marlins, I did set them at a minus 144. One of the very rare times I'm going to be betting on Sandy Alcantara this year because I have loved fading him, but man, do I love fading Andre Palante as well. For Andre Palante, what does this guy really do well? He's got a 5.04 ERA, 6.2 strikeouts at 3.1 walks per 9 innings, career high 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's given up 4+ runs in 3 of his last 5 starts. He's been awful. Now, Sandy Alcantara's been awful. 6.31 ERA, fielding dependent more on about a 4.40 as he's got similar numbers to Palante. 6.9 strikeouts at 3.4 walks per 9 innings, only giving up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, but he's given up 12 runs over the course of his last 3 starts as well. We'll say for Alcantara, he's been a little bit better in Miami rather than on the road. Makes sense because Miami is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, but 5.09 home ERA, 8.03 ERA on the road. But he does face off against Cardinals team that since the beginning of the month of July has been a bottom 5 offense in terms of run production. They've been a little bit better recently, but man, it has been rough for these guys as right now Wilson Contreras is leading the way in terms of hitting the deep ball. He has been able to give the team 16 home runs this year, right around about a 345 or so on base, but just have a lot of young guys not moving the line. Likes of Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman. These guys are hitting between about a 225 to 235. Gorman has given you 12 home runs, but he's not really getting on base. Lars Nootbaar is sitting about a 235. You've had Alec Burleson be rock solid, hitting about a 290, but now you've got Brandon Donovan on the injured list as well. There's just a lot of guys that you expected a little bit more from. Nathan Church is getting his shot at the big league level, but he's not a guy that I'm necessarily too bullish on. And for Miami, they do have very demonstrative home and road splits. For Miami, this has actually been a top 7 offense in terms of runs per game away from home. Away from home, they're averaging 4.75 runs per game, more like 3.8 runs per game at home. That is second worst in the National League, mainly because it is such a pitcher-friendly ballpark once again, but You do have quite a few guys that have been able to do a solid job of being able to put bat to ball. I know that Kyle Stowers has been in and out of the lineup over the last few days, 370 on base. He's been able to give the team 25 plus home runs, but even without Kyle Stowers, you still have a guy in Augustin Ramirez who's been able to do a nice job, give you 18 home runs. You've got Otto Lopez, who's been able to give you 11 home runs. Roberto Hernandez, 7 home runs in his first 150 at-bats, hitting at 275. Xavier Edwards at the top is hitting at 300. You've been able to have Mr. Marcy, Jacob Marcy, be able to hit well above 350 in a small sample size. And for the Miami Marlins, this bullpen since the beginning of the month of June has been in the top 10 in all of baseball. Likes of Tyler Phillips, Ronnie Enriquez, Anthony Bender, Lake Picard give you sub 350 ERA. Josh Simpson has been absolutely awful, but you do take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals. They themselves, even without Ryan Helsley, have been fine. And, Ryan Helsley, they probably wouldn't have wanted him over the last few weeks or so, but that said, you got the likes of JoJo Romero, Kyle Leahy, Riley O'Brien being able to give this team a sub 350 ERA. Matt Savanson has been a pretty good long guy as well, but that said, I think that both of these starters give up quite a few runs. Did some might sell it at an 8.7, so I like the over, and the Marlins on the money line made them a minus 144 favorite. 903, 904 on the betting board. The New York Mets are going to be on the road facing off against the Washington Nationals. Brad Lord says, oh Lord, to getting another start in. Kodai Senga's on the bump for the Mets. Mets are between minus 180 to minus 190 favorites, plus 152 to plus 162. That number on Washington, 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 120 to minus 125. Under is between even at plus 105, and for the Nationals, I did set them at a plus 169 on the money line if you're looking to lay run half with the New York Mets. This is off of a FanDuel opener, which they always don't have necessarily the world's greatest run line openers, but that said, in terms of that opener, in order to lay a run half, right now with the New York Mets, you're going to be getting that at a minus 110, and if we could get down to about a minus 107, I'd be willing to take a shot. I do think that when it's all said and done, I should probably be able to get about a plus 170 with the Washington Nationals. Now, it's been just a rough run for the Mets in general. They have won, I believe, 5 out of their last 18 games. It's been just less than savory, and I've been thinking that Kodai Senga has been doing for quite a bit of regression, because even though he hasn't necessarily really given up the deep ball, overall for the season, he's only giving up about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. The 4.3 walks per 9 innings is an issue, and for his career, he gets over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, down to about 8.6 punch-outs per 9 this season. He has given up 3+ runs in 4 of his last 5 games, albeit some of those against the Milwaukee Brewers were unearned runs, and Brad Lord has actually been a relatively serviceable pitcher for the Nationals. It's not going to blow you away with 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he did spend much of the season in the bullpen, but he's only giving up about 2.9 walks, 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, and you look at what he's done over his last 5 starts, he's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in every one of them. So he's been a presentable pitcher. Now what has not been presentable has been the Nationals bullpen. Dead last in the big leagues in terms of ERA, just not good when you're trotting out there the likes of Jose Ferrer, Jackson Rutledge, Orlando Rebalta, so many guys giving you north of a 4.50 ERA. They have to try to waive Kyle Finnegan at the trade deadline along with Andrew Chafin, but for the lineup, you do have a bit of something. I will say, for CJ Abrams, only 3 out of his 16 home runs have come at home this far this season. That's been a bit of an issue, and James Wood, post-All-Star break, has not been hitting a ton of the deep ball, but for Wood, he still give you about a 350 on base, 25 home runs for the season. Josh Bell, since the beginning of the month of July, has been hitting above a 270. He's up to 15 bombs. You get Dylan Cruz back in the lineup, who hasn't hit for a lot of averages here, but you do have some of these young guys like a Robert Hassel stepping up, hitting at 250. They get back Paul DeJong, who's been able to hit about a 250, 6 home runs in his first 125 at-bats. And then on the Mets side of things, quartet of guys who have been able to give you at least 20 home runs. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, all hitting in that neighborhood of a 250 to a 268, which is a high water mark for Pete Alonso. And then Jeff McNeil's give you about a 350 on base. You've had Francisco Alvarez straighten out a little bit at the catcher spot, but you still need to be getting a little bit more towards the bottom of the lineup. Cedric Mullins has 16 home runs, but he's hitting about a 220. Luis Torrens, when he's been at the catcher spot, has been rough. Mark Vientos hitting a 230 with 8 home runs. He just expected a little bit more there. And for the Mets, the acquisitions that they made at the trade line have not panned out. Ryan Helsley has well above a 5 ERA with the Mets right now. Tyler Rogers has been pretty solid for the team. I was never really feeling Gregory Soto to start with. Brooks Raley has been a little bit up and down this season. Edwin Diaz, Reed Garrett, both of these guys, a sub 325 ERA. They've been able to do a relatively solid overall job. And then for the Washington Nationals, I do think that with having Brad Lord out there, it gives them a shot to be able to keep things a little bit lower scoring. I did set my total at 8.3. At the 8.5, I'm in on the under. And for the Nationals, if we can get a plus 170 or better, which I think when it's all said and done, we should be able to, we'll be looking at them on the money line. 9-5 and 9-6 on the card. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road against the Chicago Cubs. Colin Ray says hit Pepper to another start, and Jacob Mizorowski, the Miz, is on the bump for the Brewers. And the Brewers are between minus 110 to a minus 115 favorite, and between even money to minus 105. That number on the Cubs, and currently, there's no total up on this game. That is because this is an old Wrigley Field game. I'm noticing one FanDuel opener with a total of 6.5, over at a minus 115, under at a minus 105. I would be willing to take that over. I set my total at 7.1, and the reason why you've got such a just porously low total is that the wind is going to be blowing in, and it's going to be blowing in at well north of 10 miles per hour. That said, keep in mind that these two teams had to play a pair of games yesterday, so bullpen use is going to be pretty high. And for Jacob Mizorowski, we saw his last start against the Reds coming off the injury list. That was less than savory. That's where the team got down 8-1 and they had to rally to win. He got 4 outs and he gave up 5 runs. So you do have to wonder how deep he's going to be able to go in this game. When Mizorowski is on. He's been able to get 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. Has been one of the most dominant pitchers in all of baseball. And I do think that his second start off the injured list, he's going to be looking a lot better. So I do bank on that, which is why I did set the Brewers out of minus 121 on the money line, especially with the Brewers averaging 5.8 runs per game away from home this year. That is number 1 in all of baseball. Colin Ray, the former Milwaukee Brewer, he's just pitching to a lot of contact right now, and last time he went up against the Brewers, gave up 4 runs in 4 innings. He's right now got a 461 fielding independent, only 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, gives up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, so the wind blowing in is going to be very much helping him out, but it's not like this is a Milwaukee Brewers team that is necessarily cranking out the deep ball too much. Christian Yelich is the lone guy on the roster with above 15 home runs. He's up to 26 bombs this season. It's just a lot of guys that are finding a way on base. Like, you got Chad Durbin, along with Bryce Terang, throw in there Blake Perkins, Yelich, I mentioned, William Contreras, Sal Frelick, a whole bunch of guys that just give you above a 330 on base. Isaac Collins is up to a 385 on base. Andrew Vaughn is coming on over to Milwaukee. It's been absolutely tremendous. Vaughn in a Brewers uniform right now above a 375 on base, 9 home runs at his first 120 at-bats. That has been impressive, and this is still a Cubs team that does rank in the top 5 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You've had Carson Kelly be able to do a nice job, give you above a 360 on base. Pico Armstrong, Seiya Suzuki, both have been stuck on 27 home runs for quite a while, but both are ranked at 250 or better. Michael Busch has been able to give you 24 bombs, about a 340 on base out of him, and even someone like Nico Horner, who doesn't hit for a lot of power, he's done a nice job finding a way on base as well. For the Cubs, we have noticed that the bullpen has been in a little bit of decline, but still have the likes of Brad Keller, Daniel Palencia, Taylor Rogers, Caleb Theobar, Drew Pomeranz, all give you a sub-325 ERA. And for the Brewers, since the beginning of the month of June, this has been a top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA as well, albeit it's been a bullpen that has been used quite a bit over the last few days, but you're bringing Shelby Miller at the trade deadline. He, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, Nick Mears, lots of guys on this roster give you a sub-330 ERA. So did set the Brewers up minus 121 on the money line. Going to be able to lay that, and at a 7 or less, I'm in on the over. 907, 908 on the card. The LA Dodgers are on the road against the Colorado Rockies. Tanner Gordon goes for the Rockies. Shohei Ohtani is on the bump for the Dodgers. The Dodgers minus 290 to minus $3 favorites, plus 235 to plus 257. That number on Colorado, the 11.5 total has overjuice of minus 110, and the under is a minus 110. If you're looking to lay a run half right now with the Dodgers, that is minus 185. I'd be willing to go up to minus $2 on this run line. I know that it's very, very, shall we say, juiced up to say the least, but that's just how bad Tanner Gordon is right now. For Tanner Gordon, my goodness, this has been a less than savory season for him, to say the least, as he's got a good, hearty 7.98 ERA, 434 fielding dependent, as he's given up 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but no deception whatsoever, 5.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has allowed at least 3 runs at each out of his last 4 starts, and over the course of his last 4 starts, he has given up 27 total runs. I believe all but one of them have been earned. Now you have to go up against the Dodgers lineup that albeit they are currently without Max Muncy. Max Muncy, when he's been out of the lineup, that has caused for a little bit of decline in terms of the Dodgers lineup, but you still have Mr. Shohei Ohtani, I mentioned before. He's been able to give the team over 40 home runs. He's given you about a 380 on base. Andy Paz has up to 20 home runs. He's been hitting for above a 270 for this unit. Freddie Freeman continues at a 300. Will Smith gets jiggy with a 400 base, double-figure amount of homers out of him, and it has been a Dodgers bullpen that has been a little bit shaky. Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, Brock and Roll Stewart are all on the injured list. Now they're getting back Blake Trine. Overall for the season, he's got like a 3.85 ERA, but that should be improving. Jack Dreher, Alex Vesia, but able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and that's more than what you can say for the Colorado Rockies bullpen, as this is a Rockies bullpen that has Victor Vodnik, who's been able to supply the team with a sub-4 ERA. Along Jimmy Yergin, Juan Mejia, he's been right around about a 4 himself, but now you're looking at Nick Anderson, Jane Nill and company, and those are guys that you don't want to be banking on. And for the Colorado Rockies, they're only averaging about 4.5 runs per game. Like, they're a league average team in terms of scoring at home, and Coors Field is supposed to be a cheat code for offense. Like, you do have a few guys hitting above a 300, and Brenton Doyle and Jordan Beck have been two of those guys. Tyler Freeman as well. And then you do have Mickey Moniak, who has supplied 11 home runs at home this far this season. Hunter Goodman overall for the season, about 25 home runs, but only 10 of them have come at home. He's still been rock solid for this team, but and the likes of Orlando Arcia and company have been rough. Ezekiel Tovar is back on the injured list. And for Shohei Ohtani, I recognize that his overall pitching, he hasn't been able to go deep into games. We saw him act up a little bit in that start against the LA Angels, but still, he's been one of the better pitchers for the LA Dodgers, and now he is finally stretched out to where he's going to be able to probably give you 4, maybe 5 innings in this start. Overall for the season, Shohei Ohtani does have a sub-3 ERA. I feel like a lot of people made a little bit too much out of that start they had against the LA Angels. He's got a 213 fielding dependent. He's getting 12 strikeouts per 9 innings now. With that start against the Angels, up to a 3.47 ERA, but still not giving up the deep ball, giving up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings. Should be able to go out there, dominate this Rockies lineup. So I'm willing to lay up to minus $2 on the run line of the Dodgers. Made my total to 1.2, so I'm also in on the over. 909, 910 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants are on the road against the San Diego Padres. Right now, it is Landon Roop on the bump for the Giants. JP Sears is expected to go to the Padres, but for the Padres, it's right now listed as CBD, so this game is off the board. And if we indeed do get Mr. JP Sears going in this game, I would be setting the San Diego Padres at a minus 135, so a minus 134 or better. I'd be looking at them, plus 136 or better, looking at the San Francisco Giants, and this would be a total to where I'd be setting at an 8.4, 8 or less in on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under. Now, this would be a little bit of a downgrade if you do get Randy Vasquez. That's the other guy that might be able to go for the San Diego Padres here, because I believe that he went on Friday against the LA Dodgers, so in that case, I'd be probably downgrading him by about 10, maybe 12 cents, and then we'll be upgrading it to an 8.5 or less to the over, a 9 or higher to the under. If you do get JP Sears, he's been rough himself. Like, neither of these options in terms of Randy Vasquez or JP Sears are necessarily rock solid. For JP Sears, he does a much better job in terms of not giving up a lot of walks. For Sears, he's only been giving up a little bit over 2 walks per 9 innings thus far this season, and he's only made 1 start with the San Diego Padres. That start came about 2 or so weeks ago. He gave up 5 runs in 5 innings against the Arizona Diamondbacks, so that was a little bit less than tremendous there. And for Randy Vasquez, if you look at the overall ERA, he actually has not been too bad for the San Diego Padres team, but I mean, it is getting only about 5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4 walks per 9, and his fielding independent is a 520. What you're really banking on here with the San Diego Padres, regardless of if it's Vasquez or JP Sears, is this bullpen, as the bullpen has been number 1 in all of baseball in terms of ERA. You've been able to get a lot of guys that have just been so rock solid in general for this team. Jeremiah Estrada, Audrey Morejon, David Morgan, Jason Adam, all these guys have been able to give you a sub 275 ERA. And then with the San Diego Padres, you've got a lineup that has been really not providing a lot of power. That's why you bring in Ramon Laureano along with Ryan O'Hearn at the trade deadline. For O'Hearn, he's been able to give you 14 home runs. Laureano between 18 to 19 home runs this season, and both guys have been able to give you above a 340 on base. Manny Machado, he's been able to provide 20 bombs, hitting for about a 350 on base. Fernando Tatis Jr., 370 on base. He's been able to provide 17 home runs, so these guys have been pretty rock solid. And then on the flip side, you've got a San Francisco Giants team that finds themselves in the bottom 8 in terms of run scoring, as the Rafael Devers deal has not worked out, though he's already got a home run in this series, so he'll gladly take that. But I mean, for Devers, in his first 53 games with the Giants, 9 home runs, 342 on base. He just expected a little bit more there. You've got William Adames picking it up. He's been able to supply 10 plus home runs overall since the beginning of the month of July, but still hitting at 222 overall for the season. Eloy Ramos almost is up to 15 home runs, 340 on base. He's been pretty rock solid for this team, but I mean, it's been an up and down season with Matt Chapman only up for about a 230 himself. And for the Giants, they still are a top 3 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen area, but they had to trade away a lot of those pieces at the trade deadline as well. Tyler Rogers, Camilo Duvall were 2 rock solid pieces that went away. Eric Miller is currently dealing with an injury. He's on the injury list. Randy Rodriguez has been one of the steady Eddie guys in the bullpen. He's been able to supply a sub-2 ERA, and they do pick up at the trade deadline Jose Buto, a relatively solid long guy, but I do take a look at the circumstance, and I do think that for the Padres, if you do indeed get JP Sears, they should be about a minus 135 favorite, closer to about a minus 125 if you get Randy Vasquez for Landon Roop, who's going to be getting the start for the Giants. He's making his second start coming off the injured list. Looked a little bit rough in that start number 1, but overall has been able to keep the ball in the yard for the San Francisco Giants. He's only giving up about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, and first started again 5 runs in 3 innings against the Tampa Bay Rays. Prior to that, he had given up a grand total of 4 earned runs over the course of his previous 4 starts, so he was really rocking and rolling there, and I do think that he's going to be in a little bit of better form. That said, if it is Sears against Landon Roop, 8 or less to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. If you do get Randy Vasquez going up against Landon Roop, 8.5 or less to the over, 8.9 or higher to the under. 9-11, 9-12 on the card. It is the Tigers, and they play out the Houston Astros. Framber Valdez is on the bump for the Astros, and it is Charlie Morton who goes for Detroit. Detroit does find themselves as between plus 108 to a plus 115, and between minus 125 to a minus 132 is that number on Houston, and total on this game is 8. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 115, and the under is between minus 105 to a minus 110, and right now with the Tigers, I set them at a plus 133, so I'm going to be willing to lay it with Framber Valdez and company. It is a Astros team that has been really shaky over the last few weeks, but Framber Valdez has been one of the main stoppers for the team. I recognize that he's had a little bit of a rough start or two over the last few weeks as well, but for Framber Valdez, overall has been very steady this season with a 3 ERA, giving up just a half home run per 9 innings, 9 strikeouts per 9, which is a little bit up from his career averages as well. He did give up the combined 14 runs in his last 3 starts, albeit some of them were unearned runs, but that was also on the road against the Yankees and the Red Sox in that stretch as well, so he had to go up against some very difficult teams, and to recognize that this is a Tigers bunch that is in the top 10 in terms of run scoring this year, but it just feels like it's been a little bit all over the place for the Detroit Tigers, albeit they've been very good at home entering into yesterday, 40-24 at home, and you do have consistency throughout this Detroit Tigers lineup, as you pretty much had all but 2 guys in the lineup yesterday hitting at least a 258 for this unit, with Trey Sweeney being a little bit of a downgrade right now at the shortstop spot, but you've got the likes of Cole Keith, Riley Green, Wencio Perez, Zach McKinstry, all these guys moving the line, and Green has been your main matcher with 29 home runs. Spencer Torkelson, it's just for a 243, but that on-base percentage is above 330. He's up to 26 home runs, and getting back Kerry Carpenter, who's dealt with a lot of injury this season. That's been big for this unit as well. For the Astros, they should be getting back Jordan Alvarez soon. That's not going to be coming in this series, though, but they do have a pair of guys in Yunier Diaz, Christian Walker, with both between 16 and 17 home runs apiece. The problem for these 2 guys, though, is that they're both below a 305 on base. Jose Altuve has been able to about a 280 with 22 home runs. You've got Jeremy Pena hitting above a 300, so he's a very welcome addition, and then you get Carlos Correa at the trade deadline. That helps out in terms of moving the line, getting on base, and the Astros are always one of the best teams in the big leagues in terms of not striking out, and that is big against a guy in Charlie Morton, who he overall for the season does have a little bit above a 5 ERA. He's been better recently, but with Morton, what has always been sort of the bugaboo for him has been the command, as he's back up to right around about 4 walks per 9 innings this year. That's a big reason why he's got the 5.20 ERA overall. Now, since he joined the Detroit Tigers, his 3 starts have been neither here nor there. 3.86 ERA, he is getting 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so pretty magnificent there. He did have that one start against the Angels where he had 10 strikeouts, but he gave up 6 runs in that time span. But if you take a look at Charlie Morton, ever since that disastrous first month and a half or so of the season, he's actually been relatively rock solid. The Orioles were throwing him out of the bullpen for a little bit of a time as well, so that allowed him to be able to, just for lack of a better term, revamp. He has now given up 3 earned runs or fewer, and I believe all but 3 out of his last 19 outings, so he's been able to do a solid job there. Again, some of those were coming out of the bullpen, but in that time span, he's been able to get his ERA down below a 4.25, so he's been a little bit more effective with that regard, and they're going to need him to be effective because this Detroit Tigers bullpen, since the beginning of the month of June, has been on the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had Will Vest, Brant Herter both be able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. That said, you've got a lot of other guys that they're just not doing a great job in general for this team, as you pick up Kyle Finnegan, but he's still got over a 350 ERA. He's been overall solid with the Detroit Tigers thus far, but I still have my question marks with him. It has been a very rough go of it for Tommy Kahnle. He's posting up north of 4.5 ERA. Chase Lee ended up toilet bowling for this team as well, so you've had a lot of rough bullpen pieces out there. And for the Houston Astros, even though you're going to be without Josh Hader moving forward, you still have the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Steven Okert, Bennett Sosa. All these guys give you a sub 325 ERA. So I did set the Astros at a minus 133. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line, and I did set my total at 7.9, as I do think that Valdez is going to be able to give you a solid start. So here at the 8, I'm in on the under. 913, 914 on the card. The New York Yankees are on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays, as Drew Rasmussen is on the bump for the Rays, and Cam Schlittler is on the bump for the Yankees. 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and for the Rays are between minus 115 to minus 120 favorites. Between even money to plus 104 is that number on the Yankees, and I did set the Rays at a minus 114 on the money line. Right now we're seeing a minus 115. I think when it's all said and done, we should be able to get a minus 114, minus 113, somewhere in that neighborhood, and that'll put me in on the Tampa Bay Rays on the money line. When it comes to Drew Rasmussen, he has been a, shall we say, a very consistent guy, not a guy that's going to blow you away with his swing and miss stuff or anything like that, but for Drew Rasmussen, a 2.60 ERA, fielding dependent more around a 334, but it's only giving up 1.9 walks, 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, and over his last 5 starts, he has given up 5 earned runs, 6 runs in total, so he has been able to do a very supreme job with that regard. And then on the flip side, you've got a guy in Cam Schlittler who's been, shall we say, a very good swing and miss guy at the minor league level that hasn't necessarily translated too much to the big league level quite yet. 3.94 ERA. He's been able to get 9 strikeouts per 9 innings at the big league level, so that's relatively solid. You'd like to see that be a little bit higher when you're giving up 4.2 walks and 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, so he needs to work on the command and the control a little bit, but he has given up 300 runs or fewer in all of his starts thus far. Has been very lucky that the home runs that he's been giving up have been solo home runs, as he's given up 4 bombs over the course of his last 4 starts. And for the Yankees, this has been a hit-or-miss bullpen, as David Bednar has been able to pay some dividends, picking him up at the trade deadline, but Camilo Doval has been a little bit of a mess. Obviously, Devin Williams has been a complete disaster, but Luke Weaver, he was a little bit rough coming off the injury list. He's back down to a sub 3.25 ERA, and Yuri De Los Santos, whenever he's been out there, as he's been quite banged up along Fernando Cruz. These guys have been pretty rock solid for that bullpen as well, and for the Yankees, you know what to expect out of Aaron Judge. Above a 400 on base, actually above a 440 on base, 39 home runs, and you do have a lot of power in this lineup, as you're getting a home run every about 12.5 at-bats of Giancarlo Stanton hitting darn near 300. Cody Bellinger has been very sneaky good for the team, 22 home runs, hitting for nearly a 270. You've had Paul Goldschmidt start to be able to get back on base once again. He had a little bit of a rough go of it in June into the middle of July, but he seems to be picking it up again. Jazz Chisholm, Trent Grisham, both above a 330 on base with 21 home runs, but it is a little bit of an all-or-nothing lineup, and now they're relying upon Jose Calabreo in that infield. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, you've got Brandon Lauback, which is big, over 20 home runs, hitting at 270, as that takes a little bit of the pressure off of Junior Caminero, who's had an amazing season with 35 home runs. Doesn't draw a lot of walks, but has been able to hit for a lot of power, and this is one of the best base stealing teams in all of baseball, as you had Calabreo on the Rays actually beforehand. He was stealing 34 bags prior to getting traded to the Yankees, but Chandler Simpson, he's now up to 34 stolen bases. He's hitting at 300. You've had the bottom lineup be a little bit shaky. Cameron Misner, Taylor Walls, along with Christopher Morel. These are guys hitting at 235 or lower, but you know, you've got Yandy Diaz supplying 20 home runs. He's hitting for about a 345, and this is a Rays bullpen that continues to be in the top 10 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Not sure why they sent Eric Orze down to the minor league level, but these young guys like Ian Seymour, Pete Fairbanks, Garrett Clevenger, they've been able to give you a sub 275 ERA. They're dealing with Manuel Rodriguez being on the injured list. That was a little bit of an issue for them, but they've been able to do a nice job of mixing and matching, and I do think that Drew Rasmussen going to continue to be steady and get the job done for the Rays at a minus 114 or better. Going to be willing to take a shot on the Rays on the money line, and did some I told it at 8.8, so at the 8.5, I'm also in on the over. 9:15, 9:16 on the betting board. It is the Texas Rangers on the road against the Kansas City Royals. It was supposed to be Jacob deGrom going for the Rangers. Now it is old TBD going for them, and for the Royals, we do know that it's going to be Noah Cameron. When this was supposed to be Jacob deGrom, you were finding the Rangers as a mid-sized favorite. You were finding them in that neighborhood about minus 120 to a minus 125, even money to plus 105 on the Royals with a total of 8 over and under both at minus 110. I have rearranged this handicap thinking that we are going to be getting some sort of like a bullpen game / Jacob Latz, which Jacob Latz has been able to pull off a few starts for the Rangers. I know that they sent him down to the minor league level, so I've just pretty much penciled this in as bullpen game as of right now for the Rangers. It's at the Royals at a -114, so we'd be willing to lay up to a -113 there, plus 115 or higher looking at the Rangers, and then set a total at 80.2, an 8 or less in on the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. If you do get Jacob Latz, by the way, he's been able to go 5+ innings in a lot of starts. I think that he went 6 no-hit innings against the Orioles, so that would actually make me feel quite bullish about this. But even if you don't get him, you get it like a piecemeal game. Sean Armstrong is someone that's able to give you multiple innings in this Rangers bullpen. I recognize that for the Rangers, you've had Robert Garcia fall down the toilet bowl a little bit, but I mean, this has been a team that all season long has been a top 7 unit with regards to their bullpen ERA. They've been able to do a nice job holding down the fort. You've had Hobie Milner, a guy that can give you multiple innings, give you a sub-3 ERA. Cole Winn has been really good in this bullpen as well, so they've got really good depth there. And then when it comes to Noah Cameron, he's been able to do a very solid job for the Kansas City Royals. He has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in all but 4 out of his 17 starts. He's not necessarily too much of a swing and miss guy. Only get about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but that said, less than 2.8 walks per 9 innings, giving up less than a home run per 9, and he's backed up by a bullpen that's in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of ERA as well. For the Royals, you've been able to have Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves, both give you a sub-3 ERA. They've been hurt by a few injuries, but John Schreiber's been solid with a 3.30 ERA. You're now getting Daniel Lynch off the injured list. He's been able to supply a sub-3 ERA. It's been a little bit hit or miss with some of these guys like an Anel Zerpa and company. Steven Cruz lines on the injured list, so that's been a little bit of an issue, but all in all, they've been able to do a solid job there. The big issue that you got with the Royals right now is this lineup. They do pick up Mike Yastrzemski at the deadline. He's had 3 leadoff home runs in his first 15 games with the Royals, so he's been able to do his part. And then you got Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez with 22 and 23 home runs apiece. Both of these guys have been rounding into form quite well. Bobby Witt Jr., you expect a little bit more than 17 home runs, but he's giving you about a 350 on base, so he's done a nice job there. Miguel Garcia is hitting a 300, but this team entered into the day on Tuesday averaging 3.5 runs per game at home, dead last in all baseball. And for the Rangers, this has been a bottom 7 team in terms of runs per game as well, but they've been much better recently. Kyle Higashioka, ever since the beginning of the month of July, hitting well above a 330. He's been able to do a nice job with that regard. And then we've got Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Wyatt Langford, all between 15 and 18 home runs. All these guys really, other than Seager, hitting below a 245, but for Seager, about a 400 on base since the beginning of the month of July. He's been pretty rock solid. Evan Carter has been able to give you about a 340 on base since coming off the injured list, so things are coming around for the Rangers as well. So if you get a bullpen game / Jacob Latz going against Noah Cameron, willing to take a plus 115 or higher with the Rangers, minus 113 or better, looking at the Royals, and then set a total to where an 8 or less. I'm in on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under, 917, 918. On the card, the Athletics are on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Bailey Ober is on the bump for the Twins, and JT Ginn-Juice is on the bump for the Athletics. 9 is the total, over and under, both at minus 110, with the Minnesota Twins are between minus 122 to a minus 132, and between plus 108 to a plus 112 is that number on the Athletics. And right now with the A's, I did set them at a plus 138, so I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Twins. I recognize that this is a completely gutted team, and man, for Bailey Ober, this has not been a great season to say the least. He has seen a pretty big drop-off with regards to his strikeout numbers for Bailey Ober. He's only getting in that neighborhood about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's given up 2 home runs per 9 innings, 5.15 ERA compared to a 5.19 field independent, but I mean, he has given up 3+ runs in 4 of his last 5 starts. That dates all the way back to June because he spent quite a bit of time on the injured list. But for JT, again, it's hard to have a lot of confidence in him either. He was pretty solid coming out of the bullpen. Since getting upgraded to being a starter, it's been relatively rough for him, as he has now given up a grand total of 13 runs, 12 of which earned in his last 3 starts, and those last 3 starts spanned at 11 and a third innings, so that's not great to say the least. For JT Ginn, he is getting about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's also giving up 2.1 home runs per 9 innings. Good news for him is that he gets to go up against a Minnesota Twins team that they are very much gutted in terms of their lineup, as for Minnesota, you just had a lot of guys get traded away at the trade deadline. You saw Byron Buxton, who's been able to supply about a 345 on base. He's up to 25 home runs. Ryan Jeffers has been able to give you about a 350 or so on base as well, and then Brooks Lee hitting about a 245 along Trevor Larnach. Larnach is up to 16 home runs this season, and Matt Wallner is hit for 16 home runs, but he's hitting a 211 in terms of batting average. Cody Clemens, he's only hitting a 216. Again, some relatively solid power with 13 home runs. I like Luke Haxel. He's been able to hit well above a 300, but still, it's been a very shaky Minnesota Twins lineup to say the least. Bullpen is also leaving a lot to be desired, bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and those trustworthy guys that he had at the beginning part of the season, likes of Yohan Duran, Louis Varland, Garland, Brock Stewart, they're all gone. So that means that you're relying upon Justin Topa, Erasmo Ramirez, along with Cole Sands, and pretty much the only guy that is posting up an ERA that is above a 350, or I should say in this case below a 350, is Erasmo Ramirez. That's going to fall sooner rather than later. Cody Funderburk has not been amazing with this bullpen, but for the Athletics, they're a bottom 4 team in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA as well. They trade away Mason Miller at the trade deadline. Now, you do have a pair of guys in Michael Kelly along with Sean Newcomb who've been relatively good long guys, and Elvis Alvarado is down to about a 340 ERA, but that said, you've got so many guys that are rocking north of a 4 ERA. Ben Bowden, the new long guy, and Osvaldo Bido. I know that they're now trotting out their Jack Perkins as a starter after he was a little bit of a long guy, but Tyler Ferguson, you've got a lot of guys that they're just not living up to their billing, to say the least, and I do think that for the Minnesota Twins, you're going to be able to get a little bit of better start out of Bailey Ober, and I think that both of these starters give up some runs. So semi-total 9.1, here at the 9, I'm in on the over, and with the Twins, willing to lay up to a minus 137 on that money line. 919, 920 on the card. The Pittsburgh Pirates play us to the Toronto Blue Jays. You don't mess with the Johan Oviedo. Goes for the Pirates. Chris Bassett as the hook, line, and sinker for Toronto. Toronto's a minus 145 to a minus 150 favorite. Between plus 122 to a plus 131 is that number on Pittsburgh with a total of 8.5. Under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105 with the Blue Jays. I did set their money line price at a minus 146. Now, if you're looking to lay a run half with them, you're going to be able to get this in the neighborhood of about a plus 135 right now, and I'd be willing to lay a run half with the Blue Jays. I'd be willing to take anything of a plus 112 or better on this. With Chris Bassett, he has been a little bit more suspect when he has been on the road rather than at home, but I feel like he's pitched a little bit better than what the raw ERA would indicate overall for the season. Bassett is posting up a 4.22 ERA, feeling dependent more around about a 4.29, 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, he is starting to give up the deep ball a little bit more with 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and I mentioned it, he's been on the road posting up a 6.39 ERA compared to a 2.73 at home, and he's given up darn near 2 home runs per 9 innings away from home. But good news for him is that he gets to go up against a Pittsburgh Pirates lineup that is currently dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You've only got 3 guys on the roster that have given you above 6 home runs this season: Brian Reynolds, Oneil Cruz, and Andrew McCutchen. And Oneil Cruz was missing in the lineup yesterday, so that's honestly great, as you got Jack Swiniski, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, Alexander Canario, a whole bunch of guys on this roster hitting a 220 or lower. When you've had Nick Gonzalez out there, he's been pretty solid, hitting about a 280. Isaiah Kinner-Falefa, he's able to move the line as well, but with Oneil Cruz right now on the injured list, I believe it's the concussion IL, that's not savory for them. And then for the Toronto Blue Jays, lots of guys posting between about 16 to 20 home runs: Bo Bichette, Addison Barger, George Springer. These guys have been able to do a nice job. Lager Jr. got a little bit of a day off yesterday, but he should be back for the back half of this series. You've been able to have Ernie Clement move the line, hitting a 280. Don't call his name Alexander Kirk. He's been able to hit about a 290 as well. Now for the Blue Jays, they do take quite a bit of a drop off with their offense away from home rather than at home, but they do have the better bullpen in this ordeal as well. I know it's been a little bit hit or miss with regards to some of these bullpen pieces, with Yimi Garcia still on the injury list, but Louis Varland, Uriel Rodriguez, Braden Fisher, Brandon Little are all posting up sub 350 ERAs for the season, and the Pirates have not been the world's worst bullpen as well. Recognize that they trade away David Bennar at the trade deadline. That means that you have to rely upon Yohan Ramirez and Colin Holderman, who have not been great this far this season, but Dennis Santana, Isaac Madsen both give you sub 325 ERA. Chase Sugar is down to about a 350 ERA as well, and then Oviedo is making his second start of the year where he's right now got an 18 ERA. I do think that's going to get a little bit better there. He looked good in his last minor league rehab start, but and that said, his first start of the season, he went 1 inning, he gave up 2 runs. You have to wonder about the length in this as well, and it's not even like he's been great for his career. For his career, 4.4 walks allowed per 9 innings, 4.36 ERA, 4.58 fielding dependent, and being backed up by this sort of a bad lineup, I do think that this is going to be a rough ordeal for the Pirates, and right now I'm seeing a lot of 8s popping up there. I did set my total at 8.3. I do think that for the Blue Jays, they are going to be able to get to Oviedo, and I mean, you do now have Braxton Ashcraft back in the bullpen because he was supposed to be the starter here before they recalled Oviedo, so now a little bit, but that said, going to be willing to take a shot on the 8 over. At an 8.5, I'd be willing to take a shot on the under, but now mostly seeing 8, so in on that over, and I'm going to be liking the Blue Jays at plus money on the run line. 921, 922 on the card. The Seattle Mariners are on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Jesus Luzardo is on the bump for the Phils. Luis Castillo is on the bump for Seattle. Seattle does find themselves as a underdog between plus 118 to a plus 122, and between minus 135 to a minus 144 is that number on the Phillies. 8.5 is the total, with the over and under both at minus 110, and with the Phillies, I did set them at a minus 182. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line. Now, for Ace Luis Luzardo, this has been a no good, very bad, terrible run for him recently. In his last 13 starts, he is rocking a 6.27 ERA, but the fielding independent in that time span is a 3.83. That tells me that there should be some positivity coming in for Luzardo. Overall for the season, a 4.21 ERA, but that 3.12 fielding independent, 10.2 strikeouts to 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He should be seeing things going northward, and for Luis Castillo, he's got a 3.48 ERA overall for the season, but that fielding independent is more around about a 3.90, and he's experiencing a career low with regards to his strikeout stuff. He has seen a big giant dip. His velocity is not quite where it has been in past years. As a result, he's only getting about 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Keeping the ball in the yard, give it up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, but for Luis Castillo, much of his success has been coming in Seattle. In Seattle thus far this season, he has been looking like his dominant self, 2.41 ERA, giving up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, more like 1.2 home runs per 9 innings on the road, which doesn't sound like a big jump, but the ERA, that does go to about a 4.92. And this is a Seattle Mariners lineup that can be a little bit all or nothing. I have to love the fact that you pick up Eugenio Suarez, 37 plus home runs. He's been able to do a nice job with that regard, and then you've had, obviously, Cal Raleigh, big dumper, be able to dump a whole bunch of bombs, 47 entering into the day yesterday, and he's been able to give you an on-base percentage right around about a 355. You got J.P. Crawford moving in line with about a 357 on-base. Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez, 23 to 24 home runs apiece, with Arozarena now giving you about a 345 on-base as well, but I mean, it's been up and down with regards to this Mariners lineup. Dom Canzone has been very undervalued, in my opinion, with the way that he's been able to about a 290 for this team, and then on the other end for the Philadelphia Phillies, this team is averaging well above 5 runs per game at home, and Bryce Harper starting to look like his old self. In game 1 of the series, he had 2 440-plus foot home runs. He is now up to 21 bombs and a 360 on base this season, and it's needed because Kyle Schwarber has had to carry the offense this year. 43 home runs, 370 on base. You've got a lot of guys that they get on base for the Phillies, like Trey Turner's hitting a 295, Alec Boehm has been able to hit about a 280, JT Realmuto's up to a 275, but the power outside of Kyle Schwarber has not really been there, so big that Bryce Harper has been able to pick it up. And for the Phillies, even though overall for the season they're in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, you can tell that they're starting to pick it up a little bit. Orion Kirkring has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've been able to get some good production as well out of Yohan Duran ever since he's come over. He has yet to give up a run, so they're glad that he was able to avoid that injury scare a few days ago. Matt Strom is down to about a 3.15 ERA along with Tanner Banks, so I do think that for the Philadelphia Phillies, they take it to Luis Castillo and company, and I do think that Castillo continues to struggle on the road. Did somebody tell it at 8.9, so seeing that 8.5, I like the over, and I do like the Phillies, and I'm going to bypass the money line here. I'm going to be taking a shot on the run line. You should be able to get that at big time plus money right now. That initial FanDuel opener, I am seeing that at a plus 152, so looking at that run line, and I'm going to be in on this over as well. 923, 924 on the card. The Guardians are on the road. They're facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Brandon Pfaadt is looking to battle for Arizona, and Parker Masick is going to be getting the start for the Guardians. Guardians do find themselves as a mid-tier underdog of between plus 112 to a plus 115, minus 123 to minus 137 is that number on Arizona, and 9 is the total. Over and under both at minus 110, and when it comes to the Guardians, I did have to set them as a plus 137 underdog, so willing to go up to a minus 136 with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Just don't know what we're going to be able to expect out of young Mr. Parker Masick. This is going to be his MLB debut. I typically do love to fade these guys making their MLB debut, as he was a former second round pick out of Florida State, and if you look at the minor league level numbers for him, not bad, but not amazing. Overall, he has been up, down, all around with Columbus this season, 3.47 ERA, getting good strikeout stuff with about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's also been giving up darn near 4 walks per 9 innings as well. And for Brandon Pfaadt, you know that he's really not going to hurt himself in terms of giving up a lot of walks, but he has been experiencing a dip in terms of the strikeout stuff, and that has made him a whole heck of a lot more hittable. 5.08 ERA, closer to a 4.45 field independent, 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up about 1.4 home runs per 9, and he has given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. He has been better when he has been at home rather than on the road, though. For Pfaadt, he has been posting up in Arizona an ERA closer to 3.76. He's only given up 3 home runs in 69 and a third innings at home. On the road, he's giving up well above 2 home runs per 9 innings. Does not help his cause that he's backed up by one of the worst bullpens that you're going to find in all baseball. For the Diamondbacks, you've got so many guys that are rocking an ERA above a 4. Jalen Beeks, John Curtis with 2 S's, Andrew Hoffman, Juan Murillo have all been rough. Andrew Selfrank, since coming off the injured list, has been solid, and for the Diamondbacks, obviously, this is a bit of a gutted lineup. Gabriel Moreno's on the injured list. You trade away and Eugenio Suarez along Josh Naylor, but that said, Ketel Marte continues to give you above a 375 on base. He's up to 20 plus home runs. Blaze Alexander is up to about a 340 on base. He's been pretty solid for the team. Lourdes Gurriel continues at about a 245. Geraldo Perdomo, 380 on base. And Corbin Carroll, he was rough coming off the injury list. He's been playing much better recently. He's been able to give the team 4 home runs over the last 10 games, so you do like to be able to see that. And on the other end for the Cleveland Guardians, this has been a lineup that has been one of the more poor ones in all of baseball. They are in the bottom 8 in terms of runs per game for Cleveland. It's just a very top-heavy lineup, as you've got Jose Ramirez, who's been very solid in terms of finding a way on. 25 home runs, hitting about a 290. Stephen Kwan has been able to about a 280 as well. But then you just have a lot of guys who are hitting a 225 or lower for this team. As a matter of fact, you've got all these guys hitting between about a 225 to a 229, and Anel Martinez, Carlos Santana, Gabriel Urias, and then Daniel Schneemann. And then below that, David Fry, Bo Naylor, John Kenzie Noel, when he's been out there at the big league level. They've demoted him to the minors like multiple times. Austin Hedges, all these guys hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. That's been an issue, though. Kyle Manzardo up to 21 home runs, providing a 320 on base, has been solid. And to the credit of the Cleveland Guardians, since the beginning of the month of June, this looks like the bullpen that we all saw last year. Top 6 team with regards to bullpen ERA, even without Emmanuel Clase. We got a lot of guys like Kate Smith, Eric Zabrowski, Nick Enright, give you a sub 275 ERA, so they've done a nice job stepping up for the team. Hunter Gaddis is looking a little bit better right now. He had a rough go of it towards like June into July, but he's back down below a 335 ERA, so I do think that these guys are going to be able to provide Mystic with a little bit of help, but that said, I do think that the Diamondbacks, when it's all said and done, find a way to get the job done. So I tell 9.1, so here at the 9, I'm in on the over, and with the Diamondbacks, one delay up to a minus 136 on the money line. 9.25, 9.26 on the card. The White Sox hit the road. They're facing off against the Braves, as Martin Perez is on the bump for the White Sox, and Hurston Waldrop is on the bump for the Atlanta Braves. The Braves do find themselves between minus 163 to a minus 176 favorite, and between plus 143 to a plus 150 is that number on the White Sox. 9 is the total. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. And when it comes to the Braves, I did set their money line price at a minus 164. If you're looking at that initial FanDuel run line price, so lay run F with the Atlanta Braves, you're only going to be getting a plus 106. If I can get like a plus 118, I'm going to be willing to take a shot there. That'll probably point me in the direction of the Chicago White Sox, as that they set the Atlanta Braves at a minus 188 on the money line. I do think that we should be able to get something more respectable. So if we could get that plus 118 or better, we'll be looking at the Atlanta Braves on the run line, but that's a little bit of a wait and see as of right now. As for Hurston Waldrop, he's been very good in this small sample size with the Atlanta Braves. 3 total appearances. He made 2 starts, and then he came in after that long, suspended game against the Cincinnati Reds, and he's given up a grand total of 2 runs in 17 2/3 innings. He was a former first-round pick of Florida. He was able to get really good swing and miss stuff at the minor league level when he was there. As a matter of fact, in his minor league career, he was posting up about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, was a bit wild with about 5 walks per 9 innings, but at AAA Gwinnett this season was able to put up a 4.42 ERA, but was getting better as the season went along, and now he's starting to be able to put it together, and he does get to go up against a Chicago White Sox lineup that is currently in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. That did not slow them down in game 1 and completely land-based Spencer Strider, but you know what, for the White Sox, you just don't have a lot of power with this team, as it is Lennon Sosa of all guys right now leading the way with 17 home runs, hitting at 275, and then you have a trio of guys with 13 to 14 home runs, Andrew Benintendi, Miguel Vargas, Luis Robert, all these guys hitting between a 218 to a 231, nobody with above a 310 on base, and there's just a lot of guys in general that are not moving the line. Josh Rojas, Joshua Palacios, Michael A. Taylor, Colson Montgomery hitting at 220 or lower, though for Montgomery, 10 home runs at his first 132 at-bats. That's actually pretty solid. And for the White Sox, this has been about a league average team in terms of their bullpen ERA. Mike Vasil has become a really good long guy, giving you a sub-3 ERA. Tyler Alexander, Tyler Gilbert, these are 2 guys that have been below a 3.25 ERA. Martin Perez, in the small sample size that we've gotten out of him this year, has been good. A 3.09 ERA has never been a great swing and miss guy overall for the season. He's getting 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. I attribute that to the fact that he had 4 starts in late March, early April, and then he made his last appearance against the Detroit Tigers about a week or so ago. Won 3 1/3 innings, gave up 1 run there. So I think that it's just a byproduct of a very small sample size. But he's always been in the beginning part of his season relatively solid. So this is still technically the beginning part of his season. I think they can do a presentable job against an Atlanta Braves team that They are now getting Ronald Acuna Jr. back in the fold over a 400 base. He has been rock solid for the Atlanta Braves, but they're still in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game, and they've had Ronald Acuna Jr. out there for now 60 games. You got Amanda Olsen, Marcell Ozuna, both giving 19 to 20 home runs apiece, both about a 365 on base. Michael Harris is starting to pick it up with the power of 15 home runs, but that 280 on base needs some work. He is now hitting for a 260, which that's a good sign. Austin Riley being on the injury list to start this team. Ozzie Albies hitting for less than a 300 on base with 10 home runs. You expected more there. And Nick Allen, 228 average with 0 home runs. That's not great. And for the Atlanta Braves, what else has not been great has been this bullpen. They're in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, though you do have quite a few guys who are stepping up for this team, as you've been able to have the likes of Dylan Lee, Desbel Hernandez, both be able to give you a sub-325 ERA. The Dodd father, Dylan Dodd, has been an issue, and Aaron Bummer is posting up a 390 ERA. Biggest issue has been Raciel Iglesias in the back half of games, posting up an ERA hovering right around 4, but he's been a little bit better recently. So if we can get a plus 118 or better, we'll be looking at the Braves on the run line. I would need at least a plus 165 to take a shot on the White Sox, so I don't think that we're going to be able to get there. And I did set my total in this ordeal at an 8.6, so at the 9, I'm in on the under, and we wrap things up with 927, 928 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They are on the road against the LA Angels. You say Kikuchi. I say that he's starting for the Angels, and Nick Martinez is on the bump for the Reds. The Reds do find themselves as between plus 104 to plus 112 underdogs. Minus 123 to minus 126 is that number on Los Angeles. In half is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. Set the Reds at a plus 113. So we need a plus 114 to be able to get there. We need 2 pennies of movement, and I do think that when it's all said and done, I get the 2 pennies. So going to be looking at the Reds on the money line. For Nick Martinez, recognize that this is not a guy that's going out there and flame throwing. His strikeouts per 9 rate is 6.3. That is not necessarily savory, but 1.2 home runs, 2.1 walks per 9 innings. He's doing a good job of not hurting himself. 473 ERA, but a 428 fielding independent. He has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 outings, as one of those was a long relief appearance along the way. So he's been able to do a nice presentable job recently. And for Yusei Kikuchi, the big fear that I have with him has been the command. Now, Yusei Kikuchi has been a whole heck of a lot better when he has been at home rather than away from home for the season. Kikuchi posting up a 3.52 ERA for a fielding independent with about 4 walks per 9 innings, and he has given up now at least 3 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts, so that's been a little bit less than tremendous. But again, for Kikuchi, when he has been in Los Angeles, he has been rock solid. 2.40 ERA. He has given up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings at home. That's pretty much the same mark as he's given up away from home, but away from home, that ERA does balloon up to a 4.76. He does get to face off against a Reds lineup that has been average, slightly above average with regards to their overall just run production. You don't have a ton of power outside of Ellie De La Cruz, though. 19 home runs, 350 on base out of De La Cruz. Nobody else on the roster with above 15 home runs. Spencer Steer is at exactly 15 home runs, and then you have a lot of guys that have just been sort of move the line. Eovaldi Marte has been able to hit darn near 300 for this team. Austin the Say's Kid, 10 home runs. He's been able to hit about a 262, 265. Gavin Lux, TJ Friedel, both above a 355 on base, so these guys have been able to do a presentable job. Matt McClain still hitting just a 220 for the team, but for the Reds, they've got the better bullpen here. Not that the Reds bullpen is amazing, but it's about league average in terms of ERA. Emilio Pagan gives up a few more bombs than what you'd like, but you know what? Tony Santillan have both been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Luis May has been pretty solid as well. He's down to about 315. Brent Suter, a presentable long guy, and that's more than what we could say for the LA Angels. As for the Angels, you've got Brock and Roll Burke along Kenley Jansen, both supplying a sub 325 ERA, and then from there, you've got the likes of Ryan Zephyrian, along with Connor Brogdon, when he's been out there on the field, Carson Fulmer, a whole bunch of guys posting up an ERA above a 4, and this is an all-or-nothing LA Angels team. As for the LA Angels, this has been one of the best power hitting teams in all of baseball, headlined by Taylor Ward being able to give this team 29 home runs, and for Ward, he's been able to do a better job in terms of finding way on base, right around about a 315 or so on base, but even Mike Trout with his 20 home runs, he's only hitting about a 235 to 240, so that's been a little bit of an issue for the Angels. They're number 3 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, which you do love to see, but again, with that on-base percentage, they've been one of the worst teams in all of baseball. For the Angels, overall, they are 23rd in the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage. If you look at home numbers and home numbers only, they're in the bottom 6 in the big leagues with that regard. You got someone like a Joe Adell setting fire to the rain with 25 home runs, but less than a 300 on base out of him. Logan O'Hoppe, 18 home runs, about a 280 on base. You're just expecting a little bit more out of a lot of these guys, and for the Angels having that lack of bullpen pitching, I think it's going to be costly here. I did sub my money line at a plus 113, so So plus 114 or better, going to be in on the Reds on the money line, and made my total into 8.6. So here at the 8.5, I'm also in on the over, and that'll wrap things up for the Wednesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to Chris Cichon. He does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, Larry naming does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast during the regular season, into the postseason, so I'm back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.